Welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel. It's a pleasure to be joined by Thomas as we are kind of reacting, I suppose, to the fights we witnessed last night or on Saturday night, whenever you may have watched them. We're, of course, talking about the main event from Philadelphia. Jaron Ennis beat Chikadzian again in the rematch, again on points. But we're not going to kind of react to that fight. It's more looking at what's next, Thomas. But before we do get into it, if you are watching this video and maybe aren't familiar with our channel, please do check it out. Hit that subscribe button, hit the like on this video, drop us a comment on your thoughts, and yeah, just check us out because we've got you covered from all angles with general boxing discussion and plenty of videos. So please do give us a subscribe and have a look. But Thomas, as I mentioned, we're talking about Ennis, arguably the best welterweight in the world, depending on, well, some people might have different opinions, but yeah, I kind of want to talk to you a little bit about what next, what's going to happen next with Boots, what you want to happen next, where your head's at with Boots right now, and potentially maybe then just before the end of the video, we'll maybe have a quick chat about it, the 154 if he was to move up there. But yeah, we'll stick to welterweight for now. Thomas, I just kind of you look at the champions. Boots is the IBF belt. And you look at WBA is Stanionis, WBC is Barrios, and WBO is Brian Norman Jr. So out of those four champions, kind of suppose two questions in one here, Thomas. Do you think Boots is the strongest out of those four? Or do you maybe think the jury's still out a little bit on him? Is there anyone else in the welterweight division you think maybe would struggle to beat? Or do you believe that he could beat every single one of those champions and everybody else at 147 pounds?
To be honest, going in to Boots's fight last night, I thought that I felt pretty confident that he was the best out of the title holders. But after the seeing the way that his performance went, in my opinion, he looked a little lackluster and got hit with a lot of shots. And I mean, had a closer fight than, it wasn't really that close on the scorecards, but it had a closer fight than their first fight, than Boots' first fight with Chikadzian. So, after seeing that, I'm like, I don't really know if I feel so confident about him beating the other champions. And, Sergio Mora mentioned it, towards the end of the fight. He said, well, it might be better to see Boots against those guys, rather than Crawford. He might be better off against one of the title holders rather than Crawford or anybody else at 154. I think the jury's, still out on whether or not he um, stands above the rest. And I think I would like to see him fight at least one of those other title holders. I know, like, politically, given the landscape and everything, it might be hard to make a unification happen, but I think him against Stanionis or Barrios would be a great fight, in my opinion.
For sure. I can't disagree with anything you've said there, Thomas. I think um, maybe underwhelming against Chikadzian, but then can you kind of make excuses for it because Boots had already beaten him really easily, 120, 108 on all three scorecards in the first fight. Are you kind of thinking this guy can't really beat me? I don't have to be on my A game. Is there that element to it? But then at the same time, I think I don't want to speak on your behalf, but I wanted Boots to go in there and stop Chikadzian this time, put on a bit of a statement. Obviously, didn't do that, but yeah, I think I alluded to it, and I kind of mentioned it. I know I mentioned it in our group chat, and I was talking with some of the other ESBR guys, Thomas, that not his fault totally, Boots, but I do think that maybe people have got a little high on him a little quickly. Um, when you actually dissect his resume, Chikadzian twice and probably Avanesian is his best win. Um, not that he can only beat who's put in front of him. I know that, and as you mentioned as well, with potential unifications, whatever, it all depends on politics sometimes in boxing, as we well know. But yeah, I wasn't overly impressed. I still probably do favor him beat most other welterweights in the world. Um, can't say with any degree of confidence that, Stanionis definitely beats him, or Barrios definitely beats him, or Norman Jr. or anybody else at welterweight. But at the same time, can't say, oh yeah, Boots will stop Stanionis, oh he'll beat Barrios. I can't say that either. That's kind of where I'm at the minute. But I agree with you. Before talking of this Crawford fight and some other maybe super fights, even up at 154 and so on and so forth. Yeah, I would like to see him beat one of those other champions, or at least one of the big names at welterweight. Grab another belt. He won't be able to become undisputed because, as we know, as you mentioned, politically. But um, yeah, unifications. I think there's no reason why I can't have maybe one against one of those champions, and then maybe we'll start taking notices of Boots being like a real top level fighter. Just before we wrap it up, Thomas, let's talk about the super welterweight or light middleweight and old money. You've obviously got Bud Crawford up there, who now holds the WBA belt. You've got Fandora has two belts, I believe, WBC and WBO. You've got Virgil Ortiz is the interim WBC champion. You got Murdazaliev is the IBF champion. Out of all of those fights, which one do you want to see the most? And would you be backing Boots to beat any of those names?
Oh boy. I definitely wouldn't. I wouldn't favor him to beat Crawford. And I don't even know if I'd favor it. Like if that version of Boots shows up against Murtazaliev. I wonder how that would go. Probably not well. So I I would like to see him fight Virgil Ortiz personally. I think that's a good test for really both guys. I think both guys are, Ortiz had a tough fight against Bochuk. I think perhaps he's not a world champion yet, but I kind of feel like maybe he's a little bit more proven in tough fights against higher opposition. But I would either way, I would love to see those two guys fight and just to see like where they're at. Um, as far as talent level and like which of those guys is going to be you know real class talent at 154. So no title on the line for that one, but don't really care. I would still love to see it anyway.
Yeah, man, it's an interesting one for me. Something I've actually said about Ortiz in the past is maybe that he's kind of flattered to deceive with me. Um, and but I would actually favour Virgil Ortiz to beat that version of Boots Ennis, to be honest. You mentioned the Boychuk victory. It's a great win. I think at 154 as well. I think I would favour Virgil Ortiz, which is crazy because if you had have asked me this maybe 10 months ago, I probably wouldn't have said that. But going off last night's performance, yeah, he won and he won easily and it was comfortable. But you're right, he took too many shots. You can't be taking shots like that against the best welterweights, never mind the best super welters in the world. So yeah, I agree with that, mate. I think Crawford definitely beats him. I still think Crawford beats potentially everybody at 154 as well. Whether or not we see that, another thing. Murtazaliev, like we saw him run through Tim Zhu last time. I mean, yeah, I don't think that fight, judging on that Boots we saw on Saturday night, again, I agree with you, Thomas. I don't know if that goes 100% well. I don't want this to sound like a big negative video towards Boots Ennis, but still think I think the jury's out a little bit, as you mentioned at the beginning, based on what we saw there in the Chikadzian rematch. That yeah, he maybe won't be as big a favorite or won't be viewed as this future pound for pound star in as many people's eyes as he perhaps was before that. But yeah, like you, mate, I think he could win a world title at super welter. Who against? How that happens, how that plays out, I'm not too sure. But yeah, I would favour Crawford to beat him. I'd favour Murtazaliev to probably beat him as well, just going off last fights. And Fandora beat him. I don't know. I don't know. I can't. Maybe. I would maybe back Boots there, but yeah. I mean, equally. Yeah, equally. I definitely not against Crawford, and I would favour Ortiz as well. But yeah, we could talk all at length, Thomas, all day long about who we want to see Boots fight next and how he fares against all of the best 147, 155, 154 pounders in the world. But we don't have time. We have unfortunately ran out of time. Guys, let us know in the comments your thoughts. What do you want to see Boots do next? How does his career play out against the top welterweights and the top super welters in the world? And do you think he could be the man in those two divisions, or do you still favour some of the other champions? You know, your Crawfords, even someone like Virgil Ortiz, your Murtazalievs, your Fendoras, even your Barrios, Stanionis, Norman Juniors at welterweight as well. How do you see Boots doing against them? Please let us know in the comments. Drop us a like on this video, that subscribe button, and Thomas, I will speak to you again very soon, my friend.